It's O'Loughlin Gaels from Kilkenny against St. Thomas's of Galway. And as you said at the start, two teams that you wouldn't have expected to get to this point. We would have expected probably Ballyhale Shamrocks against Ballygunner, especially when we seen the draw. You mentioned those two shocks. Which one do you think was the bigger one?
Might be an unpopular opinion now, but I think the O'Loughlin Gaels beating Ballyhale was bigger. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because that was in normal time.
Yeah.
And they had one chance to do it. They did it. And St. Thomas's, to be fair, yes, it was a big shock against Ballygunner, but they went all the way to penalty shootout. And Ballygunner could have easily won that game in normal time or extra time. So for me, I think O'Loughlin Gaels beating Ballyhale, and the way they beat them as well early on the championship. And when you look at Thomas's, they have reached the All-Ireland semi-final, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, and they've always fell at the last hurdle. So Thomas's would have been dying to get over the line. O'Loughlin Gaels, a long time without a Kilkenny championship, and for them to beat Ballyhale was an outstanding achievement. But in terms of this final overall, I think it's unlike Glen and Bridges, where Glen, you'll be thinking, if they lose this, it's an All-Ireland left behind them, and Bridges, it'll be a massive shock if they win. Either way, this is an incredible final either way, because you don't know who's going to win this. Seriously, it's going to be a point either way. Neither side probably would have expected to get here. They are here now. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. And it's interesting as well. Thomas's probably have the better attack. It's similar to the football again. They have a better attack, but O'Loughlin Gaels have the better defence. And those three lads in particular, but Mikey Butler, Hugh Lawler, Paddy Deegan, three of those are probably the three best defenders in the country. Never mind Kilkenny. So it's going to be interesting to see how Thomas has come up against him. Who will Mikey Butler go on? Will he go on Ian Burke? Will he go on Conor Cooney? We'll have to see once the throw-in happens on Sunday, but I'm definitely looking forward to this game. And either way, it's going to be a shock.
Well, that's it. It's going to be an absolutely outrageous contest. And like when you look at it, like one of the things that I always analysed it with is, I know it sounds absolutely bizarre to say this, but for this final, there's so much on the line. Like, I'll give you an example when I explain how I'm talking about it. Say, for example, Dublin versus Mayo in 2020 over the pandemic final. That final didn't feel like a huge deal because it was a Mayo team that was very much in transition. They had introduced so many new players into the side. It was a Dublin team that you knew would probably be back in the final in the next 2 or 3 years. And both sides went into that thinking, like, if we win it, we win it. But if we don't, it's not the end of the world. This, because both teams knew, that they would be back in the final probably very soon. This one, when are O'Loughlin Gaels and St. Thomas's going to get to the All-Ireland final again? St. Thomas's found it very hard to hold on to the Galway Championship. O'Loughlin Gaels are going to absolutely have a fight for their lives to get out of the Kilkenny Championship next year, let alone get past the Ballygunner or whoever comes out of Munster next year. So when is the next time that one of these sides will be in the All-Ireland final? And that leads to it being such a massive game for the two teams. And I think they will both feel it. I think there'll be a lot of mistakes at the start of this game. There'll be a lot of dropped balls. There'll be a lot of missed pickups, a lot of nerves in the stadium, because I think they'll both be acutely aware just how good an opportunity this is. If you can take an All-Ireland title in the era of Ballyhale Shamrocks and Ballygunner, like, fair play to you.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, even looking at the Kilkenny Championship next season, not just Ballyhale, but Bennettsbridge only lost to O'Loughlin Gaels by 3 points this year. And Bennettsbridge beat Ballyhale Shamrock. So that's another team that you could add to the role in Kilkenny. There are plenty of teams that will go for O'Loughlin Gaels' throat next season.
There was another team as well, wasn't there, that barely lost to Ballyhale just before the O'Loughlin Gaels game?
I'm not sure at the top of my head who it was.
Was it James? It wasn't James Stevens. Was it Tullaroan?
It could have been, actually. Could have been.
Okay, put it in the comment, guys, if you have it. It's not off the top of my head, but I know that they were. TJ Reid saved them right at the end of the game, just before the O'Loughlin Gaels game. And me and Aaron were saying, okay, they've had their slip up. And then they went out in the next round.
Yeah, and you look at Ballyhale's talents, that can't go to waste next year. You have to imagine they're going to win the Kilkenny Championship next year. So it's almost like a do or die for O'Loughlin Gaels.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's going to be. Like Thomas's, to be fair, I think I think they could even win the Galway Championship next season. I know they've been put to their pin or collar in previous seasons by the likes of Clarenbridge over the last few seasons or Loughrea, but I still think Thomas's are a good side in Galway and they should win it again next season. But again, with these two, they don't necessarily have brilliant players in every position. And I don't want to have offence with Ireland, but when you look at Ballygunner and Ballyhale, they had every position. There's an inter-county player. That's an unreal player. That's one of the best players in the country. But when you look at these sides, other than the three lads of the O'Loughlin Gaels defence, neither side have brilliant, talented players. Like I'll provide an example in the O'Loughlin Gaels attack. Mark Bergen has scored 62 points. The next top scorer for O'Loughlin Gaels is Owen Wall with 3-3. That tells you they do not have the best attackers. But what I noticed about All-Ireland Gaels in the last few games, especially against Rory O'Cushendall and Athena in the Leinster final, they're willing to battle. Even when things are going against them, they're willing to battle. And it should be very interesting to see if they bring that battle out onto the field on Sunday. Thomas's, they're kind of the unknown quantity, aren't they? Because nobody probably has watched the Galway Hurling Championship in depth to judge them in a way. They only judge them over the Ballygunner game. Whereas O'Loughlin Gaels, they've been judged maybe since the Kilkenny final, then the Leinster Championship, and then against Rory O'Cushendall. So maybe O'Loughlin Gaels would have been analysed more than Thomas's, which makes this game even more interesting as well. So it's a tough one to call, it really is.
But the thing that I always respected about O'Loughlin Gaels was when you look at it, Brian Hogan has got it right. He really has. I think they are squeezing every drop of potential out of that team that they could. He has, Butler, Deegan, and Hugh Lawler there. So he has David Fogarty there, wing back, who's impressed me as well. But basically, he has the three main lads in defence that are leading from the front, and then they lead the charge, and then they keep it tight at the back, and Mark Bergen does the rest up front, and that has been enough to get them to the All-Ireland final. St. Thomas's, on the other hand, I agree with you on the unknown quantity thing. Like, a lot of people haven't seen much of St. Thomas's, but the reality is they have a lot of players as well who are unknown quantities in the sense of you don't know what you're going to get from them on a given day. Like, Conor Cooney has the potential to be one of the best forwards in the country, but then sometimes he doesn't perform to his best. Whereas in that semi-final against Ballygunner, he hit over pretty much every free he got. He scored 13 points from frees. And that was a massive, massive contributor in them getting over the line, because Pádraig Mahoney on the other side missed quite a few vital frees for Ballygunner. But Cooney at the same time could turn up in this final and hit 11 wides from frees himself. Let's say he has to hit form. You've got Aina Burke there in the forwards, who's been incredible for St. Thomas's for years, but it hasn't hit form for him with Galway. Why is that? Is there something that when it comes to the big stage, this is the perfect opportunity for him to grab Henry Shefflin's attention with both hands if he absolutely tears this final apart, when he will be picked up by a Hugh Lawler or a Mikey Butler or something like that. So it's the perfect opportunity for both of these teams. David Burke being back is outrageous when you consider the injury that he had. I don't know how he's still walking, let alone playing in an All-Ireland final. It's a massive opportunity for both of these counties. And I don't know who I'm leaning to. It's not like Glenn and Bridget's. I think you can see a victory for either team here. You really, really can. And look, Thomas's, the last time they were here, they lost. The last time that they were here, they lost. And O'Loughlin Gaels, as I said, are flying on the coat of this is our only golden chance, really, to get here and to win this All-Ireland final. And they also, let's be honest, they've had a bit of a chip on their shoulder throughout the championship, of a bit of a put some respect on our name. Because the minute the Ballyhale Shamrocks were out, everyone all of a sudden was like, oh, Nafina could win Leinster, or, that Cushendall could now make it to the All-Ireland final. And O'Loughlin Gaels, who took out Ballyhale, must be thinking, hang on, we beat Ballyhale. Why shouldn't we be the ones to go all the way to the final and win it? And no doubt Brian Hogan is using that rhetoric to his team to fire them up. It's such a hard one to call.
Definitely is. And O'Loughlin Gaels have a chance of providing a bit of history. I know Kilkenny did this in 2020, but the Kilkenny intermediate and junior champions won the All-Ireland last weekend. And
Yeah.
O'Loughlin Gaels had the chance to make it a 3 in a row. So there's a lot of pressure on them. There really is. Thomas as well, David Burke, as you mentioned there, how is he actually playing? It's unbelievable in his own right. But yeah,
Fintan Burke
and
has been brilliant as well. I think we need to
yeah,
mention him. He's been
and
brilliant.
what will be crucial as well as sidelines. Fintan Burke, he's well capable of putting over a sideline cut. He's
Shane
probably one of the
Cooney as
best.
well. That's
Shane
6.
Cooney, another good player. And what would be vital, I think, is the free taking. You mentioned with Pádraig Manning missing so many frees, with Conor Cooney taking his. It'll be a battle between Conor Cooney and Mark Bergen, who have been exemplary throughout the championship, but both of them have to have unreal games for their side.
Who would you rather have on the freeze?
That's like saying, yeah, who would you rather have in soccer, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo? Because two of these guys are incredible at free taking. Mark Bergen probably hasn't had the luck in terms of getting into the Kilkenny team. Conor Cooney has with Galway, obviously, but Mark Bergen, what I noticed with O'Loughlin Gaels, every time he steps forward to take a free, I'm like, okay, that's a point. Yeah. Same as Conor Cooney. Once you have that mindset with those sorts of players, you know they're good free takers. Who would I rather have? It's a tough one.
It's so hard, isn't it? Like, genuinely, who would you going into this final? Because we have identified this. Free taking is going to be a huge part of this game because like a lot of the scores for both of these sides have come from frees. Mark Bergen or Conor Cooney, which one would you rather have?
I'll edge it towards Mark Bergen.
Yeah, it's so hard though because Cooney hit 13, you're right, in the semi-final.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I think Cooney has more experience being an inter-county free taker. Does that count?
Yeah.
For much in this game? Because Bergen hit over a lot of frees against Nafina in the Leinster final, and that was in Croke Park.
Yeah. And the Croke Park experience as well?
Yeah, that's it.
That could.
How long has it been since Cooney took a shot at the Croke Park post?
Against Limerick, was it? The All-Ireland semi-final?
Against Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final. Like, that's a long time ago. That's 7 months ago.
Yeah. And Limerick aren't the side to concede stupid frees either. So he may not have taken.
He probably wasn't on the frees that day. Sure, Evan Nyland probably would have been taking them.
Probably. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Like, but you could argue, yes, Mark Bergen doesn't have inter-county experience, but he's more experience in taking frees than Conor Cooney has over the last few games. I'd
probably go with Bergen as well, to be honest. I think Bergen's a little bit more consistent. Cooney. I think Cooney I think both at their best, I'd probably go Conor Cooney because he was at his best against Ballygunner. But I've seen him have games where he doesn't hit the same heights. I think Bergen's a little bit more of a safer bet. It's massive. It's so hard to call. Cooney has the potential to basically be a match winner in this game for St. Thomas's, and that does bring me on to official prediction time. But before we get there. Matchups. What matchups we mentioned about in the football? We said we highlighted the 3v3 potential in the middle. We're anticipating Brian Stack might be moved further out the field. In the hurling final, what are the key matchups?
I think whoever is taken by Mikey Butler is going to get some treatment.
Yeah,
and it'll be a question for from a O'Loughlin Gaels point of view. Who would you put in a Burke on Mikey Butler? Because of the way he scored for play in this championship, or would you put him on Conor Cooney because of his inter-county experience? It's a tough one for O'Loughlin Gaels. I'd personally put him on Ian Burke because you even looked at the Ballygunner game. He had
on Conor Cooney.
Yeah, but then again, Paddy Deegan, would you not give him license to roam? Paddy Deegan.
Maybe put David Fogarty on Cooney if he moves out around the middle. Fogarty's been impressive. It's his perfect opportunity to put his hand up for a Kilkenny jersey next year.
And Hugh Lawler, you can't forget him.
Hugh Lawler would be an incredible midfielder as well. Like, to be honest, I'm surprised he's played fullback. I was surprised initially that they didn't try and play him around midfield, because I think he'd be a brilliant midfielder as well.
Yeah, it's a thought process, definitely. Like you see, there was even in Cork Championship, Maurice Shanley, a Cork defender, playing midfield for Clonagilty. It has been done before. So
I don't think they'll move him now. I think I think they'll go with the horse that has got them here. They'll go with what has taken them in to this point. I think if I had to pick, I think they'll probably put Mikey Butler on Aina Burke. They'll leave Hugh Lawler to patrol the full back line, and they'll probably put either David Fogarty on Cooney and let Paddy Deegan roam, or they'll put Paddy Deegan straight on to Conor Cooney.
Yeah, it should be very, very interesting. But even look at the O'Loughlin Gaels forwards, there's not really many to pick from, and there's not many defenders to pick from. It's a tough one. Who would you put? Well, Mark
Bergen, is he dangerous enough from play, in your opinion?
He did prove it against Rory O'Cushendall in the semi-final.
Yeah.
I will say that, but that was one game, so you don't know. It's a tough
I don't
one.
think. Do you think it's worth? My point is, do you think it's worth moving Shane Cooney and Fintan Burke out of the positions that they've been in?
Maybe put Shane Cooney on him and let Fintan Burke, like what Paddy Deegan's down the other end roam.
Mm-hmm.
Because Fintan Burke is capable of that and capable of getting some monster scores from wing back. So maybe that's a thought that could go into for St. Thomas's. And what's crucial as well, the midfield, and in and around the middle, St. Thomas's have Evan Duggan, who was the man of the match, deservedly so in the All-Ireland semi-final, and David Burke, who is just an incredible athlete. And O'Loughlin Gaels don't necessarily have a good midfield. Cian Law is there, who's a decent player, but he's not really inter-county standard, if you know what I mean. So Thomas's could win the midfield department.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. But then again, O'Loughlin Gaels have the tendency to get over the line no matter what. And that proves a lot as well. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay. Well, we'll do this for Jack now after a second. Jack says, hello, just after subscribing. If you have time, can you predict the provincial pre-season competitions towards the end of the video? I can give one quick answer on them straight after. Like just who we think is going to take it. But we will quickly give our prediction and preview to the All-Ireland Club Hurling Final. So our official stamp on who we think is going to take it. And then Jack will get around to giving our prediction for who we think is going to win the pre-season competitions. The All-Ireland Club Hurling Final of 2023/2024. It's O'Loughlin Gaels. It's St. Thomas's. It's an All-Ireland Club Final that, as we said, both these sides have to grab this opportunity while they can. Who do you think is going to grab this opportunity on the weekend?
So hard.
So hard to call.
And as you mentioned before, Seamus, you wouldn't be surprised if either side win it.
Yeah.
You could see either side doing it. I'm going to edge it to O'Loughlin Gaels because of the way they got out of Kilkenny, because of the way they get over the line no matter what, even in the Fina game and Rory O'Cushendall in that semi-final, where they easily could have lost it. I'm going to go O'Loughlin Gaels to get their name on the trophy. And as well as that, we mentioned at the start of the chat about this particular final that Ballyhale Shamrocks will be going for O'Loughlin Gaels' throat next season. And that'll be in their minds as well. So I'm going to go O'Loughlin Gaels to grab that opportunity while they can.
Yeah, grab the opportunity of winning that All-Ireland title, because it's Ballyhale and Ballygunner will be back next year. That's no doubt about that. It's crazy because at the start of the video, I was genuinely tipping St. Thomas's. The more we've talked, the more I'm like, oh, I could see O'Loughlin Gaels winning because they're such warriors. And if it comes down to a scrap, like for the game, I think O'Loughlin Gaels have more leaders like that will maybe take them over the line. But I don't know. St. Thomas's, this is what... Does one performance completely change? Because I remember thinking Ballygunner were 100% going to win. I'll stick with my prediction. I'll go Thomas's. But I'm not as confident in it as I was before we started talking about this game. I'm probably going to go Thomas's by 1. genuinely as close as you could possibly be. I'm going to go Thomas's by 1 point. It's going to be so close. It's going to be so close and well worth tuning in. Make sure both games on TG Car, watch them. And TG Car's coverage is fantastic.